All right, welcome back. Episode 3, Shred the Lettuce. Today we're going to be making potatoes, fried potatoes. This is one of my most popular recipes. I make this a ton with steak, chicken, with other proteins, and this does really well in the morning too. If you want to cook a bunch of potatoes and cook some eggs in with it, it is really great. So there's a few different types of potatoes that you can use for this. You know, I'm going to use red potatoes. You can use Yukon Gold, which we like to use a lot as well. You can also use russets, but russets are a little soft. Sometimes they kind of break down when you cook, and these red potatoes hold up pretty well. What?
I hate russet potatoes.
I think they're delicious.
I like Yukon Gold the best.
Well, no one cares what you think. This is my show. All right, so since we're going to parboil these potatoes, and that means that we're going to cook them pretty much all the way through before we start to saute them and cook them down and get them crispy. So this is a 5-pound bag. I'm going to use half of it, and that'll be the standard for the recipe. So just get out, about half of the bag. These are a little bit bigger. Sometimes your cuts are going to be different. If the potatoes are a little smaller, that's fine. So for this, we're going to use a half bag. We're going to use a full red bell pepper, and then we're going to use half of an onion. We'll save that. We'll cook these off, and then we'll throw that all in a pan, cook it down together until the potatoes get nice and crispy. So this is how we're going to cut these guys. Jesus. All right, so here's how I break down and cut potatoes. So something this big, I usually cut it in half first. So just straight down the middle, which will leave you a nice flat side. That's nice. What?
That was a good cut.
Jesus. All right, so that gives you a flat side so it'll not move around on you a whole lot. Again, same knife technique that we taught earlier. I'm gonna go in half again, and you'll hear it. We'll do it when we hit this one. This is probably gonna take 40 minutes to cook down to the point that we want because it sounds a little crispy, like an apple. If it's really soft and doesn't make, your camera work is getting worse episode by episode. So it's ridiculous. All right, so we're gonna
taking a shot of your hands. You pulled it up to your face without any sort of warning.
So I'm gonna cut this into like an inch kind of square, inch, and then another inch. So it'll look like that. And I'll go ahead and just start throwing that in a pan. So listen to this. So you can actually hear that. Kind of sounds like an apple, and that's when it's firm like that, it's gonna be a little bit longer in the cook process. If you don't hear anything, again, it's probably gonna cook in like 20 minutes. So red potatoes tend to be a little firmer than things like Yukon Gold and some others as well. So we'll go ahead and prep these up and get those in a pan first.
Shout out to the dogs over there. Oh.
Boy, looks like a lion.
Oh, what you drinking?
I think, well, delicious sparkling beverage.
What flavor?
Passion fruit. All the other ones are horrendous.
You like the plain one, though?
The plain one's okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Passion fruit's pretty good. All right, all the potatoes are cut up.
Ooh.
So there we go. So just throw some water. Really, you only need to just cover these. You don't need like an insanely big pot of water. Just cover them by maybe like an inch of water. And then we'll get them on high heat. We're gonna wait for them to boil. And then we're gonna cook those down. Like I said, with these, since they're a little firmer, probably take a good 40 minutes before they actually cook. So get them on high heat. Go ahead and get a cover on top of that so it heats up pretty quickly. And then once that comes to a boil, we'll turn that down to a simmer, and then we'll let that go for 40.
All right, go.
And then we're on. All right, you could use any other color bell pepper for this that you want. It could be green, yellow, orange, doesn't matter. We're gonna go red just to mix it up. I feel like we're using a ton of bell pepper and onion every episode. So same thing, break these down. Doesn't need to be super fine. Just gonna cut these guys up into like 1/2-inch little chunks. Don't need to be too precise. Look at the camera work, unbelievable.
Shout out Easy.
What? Did you say Yeezy?
Yeah, that's Kanye West.
Yeah, thank you. I think I said easy.
Not bad.
All right, so red pepper, we're gonna put, later when we start to cook this down, we're gonna put red pepper and onion. We're gonna go Vidalia onion again. Same technique again. Cut out the off outside layer. Get rid of that wrapper. And then with this, we don't need to be real fine with the dice. We're gonna leave it pretty big. Save that. I'll probably just come across this one time. Nice big chunks. And then I'm gonna leave it a little bigger than we have in previous episodes. So we've got sizes like that that are just about the exact same as a bell pepper. We'll save that off to the side. We'll let those potatoes go for the 40 minutes until they're soft and fork tender. So what that means, you'll see, is when you put a fork in it, it just starts to break apart. That'll let you know it's done and ready to move on to the next step.
Do you think it's a wise decision to do red on red?
What, red onion? I mean, red bell pepper with...
Red potatoes?
I don't know. What would you do?
I mean, personally, I would have done a Yukon Gold.
Yukon Gold potatoes are average. Like your pot of char beans over there.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this.
The second best cook in the house is cooking a pot of beans.
Oh, that looks good, y'all.
Oh, probably 4 out of 10. Alright, so potatoes have finished cooking. We're gonna do the fork test. So, I wanna come in here and I wanna be able to just tap these guys. And if you can see that right there, where I put the fork in, that just started to break apart. So that's what you wanna see, that the fork can easily go into each of those. So, let's get these off, strain them. I usually just put those back right on top of the pot you're cooking them in so they have somewhere to drain. And just put that off to the side of the stove. And then we'll get a pan going. I would say for this recipe, the best thing to do is either use cast iron or a big non-stick skillet. I'm gonna go the cast iron route. Just because sometimes if you cook in stainless, the potatoes can kind of stick a little bit. So let's just get this pan over like a medium-high heat. And even if you want to go high at first, just to kind of get it heated up, this will bring us back to our peppers and onions that we had earlier. And I'm going to get these cooking with a little bit of olive oil. We got olive oil? Whatever. Here we go. Oh yeah, we just use it all. Hey. All right. So key for this, when you're making these, right, you can control again how much fat you put in them based on how many calories you want to get out of it. So I usually use quite a bit of extra virgin olive oil. That was probably like 5 tablespoons worth. If you want to be really healthy, just add a tablespoon, just enough to get these sweating. So again, red bell pepper and onion, we're going to let this start to kind of cook down a little bit. So when I get this in the pan, we want to go ahead and add a good teaspoon of salt. That's going to start to sweat the onions and the peppers to bring the water out, so they start to kind of cook down relatively quickly. Now, I don't like to let these go until the point where they get any color on them. We want the onions to be translucent, and we don't want to see any like darkening on the peppers, just because they're still going to cook with the potatoes for a long period of time. And if you let this go too far at first, sometimes it almost ends up like burnt when it comes out. So let's just let these go, like I said, until these soften up a little bit, probably like 2 or 3 minutes over medium to high heat. All right, so these have gone for 3-4 minutes until they've gotten a little bit soft. Still plenty of texture left in there. So the only thing that you can't do, you know, I said we're going to use a half bag. We'll see how much this comes out to. Some of this depends on how big your skillet is. This is like a standard size cast iron skillet. You don't want to get it so crazy crowded that the oil can't get around the potato. So, you know, I probably honestly am only going to end up using about 1/3 of that bag. But worst case scenario, you got a bunch of vegetables in there, so it's going to taste good. Just save those, put those in some plastic, throw that in the fridge, and then you can do the same thing like a couple of days later with the same recipe. So for me here, we've got, you know, that's about as many potatoes as I would want to see in the pan. Again, we want to season this next layer with, you know, maybe a ½ teaspoon to a full teaspoon of salt on top of there. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of pepper. You know, just a few turns. And then on top of this, right, so there's olive oil on the bottom of this where all the onions and the peppers are. I do want to add another tablespoon to the top here. And you can either, you know, fold that in nice and slow. You can give it a couple of flips. I'm just going to flip it all, just so everything is nice and incorporated. Honestly, that's just something you have to do a whole bunch. I have no tips or tricks for that, but you can start to play with that with like a fried egg with the whole flip thing. It does make things just a lot more time efficient. And then again, I'm gonna keep this over, you know, probably like medium high heat, because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. Those peppers and onions are gonna give off some liquid. That's gonna kind of prevent the potatoes from getting crispy. So you definitely want this like medium to even high heat. Just make sure that you watch it, that the bottom layer of stuff isn't getting black and burned. Usually you'll smell it if you're kind of staying with it, but we probably want to let this go over medium or high heat for a good, you know, probably 5 to 10 minutes. And as long as that doesn't burn, we'll go in and give them a flip, and then everything will start to cook down and get crispy, which is really the name of the game with these potatoes.
Would you say this is healthier than a baked potato?
I would say it's healthier. I mean, it really depends on what you put on it. I mean, a baked potato by itself is healthier than this, technically speaking, because it doesn't have a bunch of oil and fat in it, if you want to think about it that way. But, I mean, who's going to eat a plain baked potato, a psychopath?
What you drinking?
Kombucha beer?
Alcoholic kombucha.
Alcoholic kombucha.
What flavor?
I have no idea.
Ginger. Ginger.
It's good. Refreshing. Cleanses the palate.
Also acts as a probiotic.
Probiotic. Important for gut health.
What does that mean?
Gut health?
No, explain to the people what a probiotic is.
Well, your gut has a bunch of bacteria and flora inside of it, and that helps to break down food and keep everything healthy. And the more we understand this from a science standpoint, it even has a lot to do with the hormonal system and even potentially like emotions and stuff. So a healthy gut bacteria is probably helpful in a whole lot of things. The science is still kind of out on understanding all of it, but probiotics is the natural compound that happens really anytime you ferment something. So kombucha, kimchi, really any fermented food is fantastic to eat. Hopefully that gets into the gut microbiome and helps things move in a positive direction.
So you're supportive of kombucha on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, unless science says that there's something bad about it, I'm all on board. It may not be the the miracle cure that some people think it is, but I'm all on board. Drink your kombucha. I think it's delicious.
What's your favorite brand?
We support Ninja Kombucha here in town.
True.
And we're also big fans of, is it Bluefoot? Not Bluefoot.
No, Health Aid.
Oh, Health Aid too. Yeah. What's the one I like from?
Blue Ridge Bucha.
Blue Ridge Bucha is delicious too. Two good Virginia products. But check out Ninja Kombucha here in town, in Richmond. Started by Brett Noble that I went to high school with, actually, back home in the 7-5. Just another business owner from the 7-5 doing great things. All right. So since we're cooking with cast iron, if you're not used to cooking with either cast iron or stainless, be careful of the handle. Last thing you want to do is go and grab that. So either an oven mitt or a towel. And you know you're in business if you can see everything still moving around the pan. If for whatever reason you're not cooking with enough oil or fat in the pan, and it looks like that when you're moving it around, then it's stuck. You might need to get a nice flat spatula in there and actually slide it under everything really firm. And that'll like not break up all the crispy stuff, but then when you recheck it, it'll start to move around. So you'll see, we'll give this a flip. We'll kind of see where we're at with everything here. So because the onions and the peppers are still giving up some liquid, you'll see a little bit of browning, but we really want to get these bad boys pretty crispy. So I see some of those peppers that have a little bit of darkness to them. So we're getting there. But again, I really just like want to get them flipped, want to get them to the other side, or you can just fold them with a spatula. And we want to not touch it. We want to let it go for another 5 to 10 minutes until it hits that next round of crispy. Just beware, as these things continue to cook down and more liquid comes out, they're going to start to get crispier quicker. So if you gave them 5 to 10 at first, you're going to want to need to stay with it after that second round and just check it every kind of 2 to 3 minutes and make sure that you keep flipping, keep stirring. All right, so things are still moving along. Things are still moving around the pan. We're going to give them another quick little flip just right here. All right, so if you zoom in on that, now you can start to see we get some of this brown kind of crispy spots. Give them one more little flip here real quick. And now, a lot of times, I know these are already cut up, but I'll actually come in here and just kind of press around with the fork a few times. I'm not going to try to mash anything. but I might just break up a few of these pieces, and that's about it. So I might go through the pan, you know, 10, 15 times. What that does is it breaks down some of those bigger pieces and creates some little small pieces. It'll get it really crispy. And I think that's like just kind of a trademark of a really good potato like that. So, you know, that'll be the last time. We'll let this go for another 3 to 5 minutes, get super crispy. We'll give them a few more flips, and then we'll show you what it looks like when it actually finishes up. All right, so this is what it should look like when it's pretty much finished cooking. So, you know, especially kind of over here, you'll notice these nice crispy dark bits. You know, the peppers themselves have some black into them, which will give them have another level of flavor there, make them nice and sweet. And really, you know, if I was going to flip this all the way through, you'll see that crispiness pretty much everywhere, so it doesn't matter. So, you know, at this point, I've salted every piece a little bit. You know, again, it seems like a lot, but there was a lot of potatoes, a lot of stuff going on. So I'll give one more little pinch here. I'll go ahead and actually turn it off at this point, you know, to finish with. I'm going to come in, I'm just going to add like 1 tablespoon of butter, nothing crazy. But I'm going to go down, kind of make a little opening here, throw that right in the center. This is just strictly for flavor. Butter's delicious, everybody likes it. Good way to sneak some extra calories in. I promise you, if you're an athlete looking to put on some size, like this style of making potatoes, you can make a huge pan or 2 of these. You can cook it for the entire week. You'll have no excuse whatsoever not to be able to throw that in the microwave for a minute and a half. Have it, like I said, with eggs, you know, in the morning for breakfast. When you get home from school, college guys, you can throw this in, eat it with a steak, Caesar dressing, whatever. And it's a nice way to get a bunch of calories in, and honestly, it always tastes good, so you're always ready to eat it. Sometimes eating a bunch can be a bit of a pain. This makes it nice and easy, you know, so just go in there, mix it around. And again, if you cook these properly the way that I like to, not only does that easily move around, but you should really just see a little bit of kind of oil, butter floating around in the bottom of the pan a little bit. So that's it. That's what they look like. And then really from there, if you want to throw some green onion or something in them to give them a little color, fine. But in my book, they're done. Serve them up. That's it. Potatoes.
What do you do with the leftover ones? How long will they be good for?
Yeah, they're usually good for like 5 to 7 days. Usually something like this size. I mean, honestly, if I was eating to add weight, something like that, I mean, this would be like 3 meals worth at most. And I know that seems like a lot, but that's the deal. So it might only last like a couple of days. And that's where something like this, you know, you can make another batch in like 3 days. Honestly, I would just cook an entire bag, double the recipe, and then you've got pretty much all the potatoes that you would need for the week. That's all I got. You got anything else?
No. Do you want to sign off with something special?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait, wait, you need to try it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God, it's gonna be so hot.
Blow on it. Give it a real gentle blow.
Give it a blow. We'll get a little pepper in there. Oh. These taters are hot. Woo!
Oh, I missed it.
Oh my God. Look at that. Hot. That's good though. Best potatoes ever. This will be your go-to from now on, I promise you. That's it. Signing out. Episode 4, Shred the Less.